The 2023-2024 NBA season is about to get underway, and it has a feeling that the quest for the NBA championship is as wide open as it has been in any year within recent memory. And the NBA has always been a sport where a title goes a long way to defining what your individual legacy is at the end of the day. And while the official odds will fluctuate, depending on exactly which sports betting institution you're looking at, virtually the universally accepted top 5 title odds favorites to hoist the Larry O at the end of this season are the Boston Celtics, followed tightly by the Milwaukee Bucks, then the reigning defending champion Denver Nuggets, and closely behind them are the Phoenix Suns and then the LA Lakers, rounding out the top 5. On the fringe of that top 5 as title contenders will be the Golden State Warriors, the Miami Heat, who everyone seems to forget about that were just in fact in the NBA championship round a year ago, and finally, the defending league MVP, Joel Embiid, and whatever the hell is currently going on with the Philadelphia 76ers. But what will a title mean to these players and organizations, and who is under the most pressure to deliver this year? Well, speaking of Joel Embiid, who after finishing second team NBA and runner-up in the MVP voting for consecutive years to Nikola Jokic in 2021 and 2022, the writers finally gift-wrapped Embiid an undeserving pity MVP award. Joel was named MVP last season. And of course, it all blew up in his face, as things typically tend to do around Troel, as the Sixers had the Boston Celtics, who have dogged them repeatedly in recent years, right where they wanted them, namely crapping in their pants behind horrific coaching. The Sixers had a 3-2 lead and 2 opportunities to close out. But in typical Doc Rivers fashion, along with little game James Harden, Joel went along for the ride of gagging away that 3-2 lead in fairly anticlimactic but predictable fashion, lifelessly no-showing a home Game 6 performance, scoring just 13 points in the fourth quarter before heading to Boston to get smoked by 24 points in Game 7. Doc Rivers was fired and replaced by Nick Nurse, and of course, former MVP James Harden, who has eaten his way out of one city and pouted his way out of another, is up to his old antics of demanding trades. It is yet to be seen if anyone actually wants this formerly at times dynamic regular season player who throws up all over himself anytime he gets a whiff of a big game or a big stage. Nonetheless, the pressure is on Joel and Philadelphia. Embiid will turn 30 years old this NBA season, and he is currently sporting the 5th highest point per game average in NBA history, behind only Michael Jordan, Wilt Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor, and Kevin Durant. But Embiid, despite trusting the process, has yet to even make an appearance in a single conference finals round. Forget the NBA final series. He hasn't even made it past the second round yet in his career. And he is unquestionably on the clock, as is Philadelphia, who have as many questions as any team in the league moving forward. They can free as much as $65 million of cap space this upcoming summer, but would have the contractual rights of only Embiid and a 1-year team option on Tyrese Maxey. If the Sixers flame out yet again this year, which seems likely, there could be even more changes coming down the pike in Philadelphia. Also on the clock and presumably running out of time is a tandem of 2 rapidly aging all-time greats, not just for their play on the court, but also for the massive amounts of slobber and other potential bodily fluids expressed by countless mass media personalities on major media outlets when discussing them. Of course, we're talking about Steph Curry, who turns 36 this season, and LeBron James, who will turn 39. Both players intrinsically connected within this super team era, where each substantially built their own legacies on the backs of other all-time great players they begged, recruited to come team up. Now, here we are at the end of the line, each with 4 rings apiece and each desperate to snag that coveted 5th ring to catapult them into the next hierarchy of all-time great list. Because, yeah, they both need it. And they are both locked and loaded up to make what could potentially be their final runs, especially amid the young and ascending other teams out in the West, in addition to the established upper echelon teams also residing in that conference. The Warriors will have some familiar faces along for the ride as they bring back their core trio of Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. Out, however, is general manager Bob Myers, the architect of the Warriors dynasty. Also on the move is Jordan Poole, who was packaged to Washington in a deal that brings in Chris Paul. And he himself is desperate to snag 1 ring before his Hall of Fame career comes to an end. The Lakers, meanwhile, one of the most hilarious and pathetically run organizations in the NBA for at least the last 2 decades, who have somehow managed to trip over themselves and continually fail up, are now trapped in an arms race against Boston for that elusive 18th NBA championship. The 2 iconic franchises are currently tied at 17, and the Lakers will return their team from the 2022-2023 season that is mostly intact, aside from the free agent acquisition of Gabe Vincent from the Miami Heat. Aside from that, the Lakers keep all of their pieces in place that had them at one stage of the playoffs the odds-on favorite to win the NBA title last year, as they went all the way from out of the playoffs with less than 2 weeks left in the regular season to steamrolling their way into the Western Conference Finals behind Anthony Davis and a plethora of big contributions from a number of Laker role players. And the Lakers were squarely within every game in the Western Conference Final Series against the Nuggets, as all 4 games were within 1 possession late in the 4th quarter, with LeBron ball in hand at multiple moments throughout the series, only to come up small as he has time in and time out throughout his career. Bricking the game-tying 3 with 45 seconds left in Game 1, blowing this layup that would have made it a 2-point game with 30 seconds left in Game 2, and this epic travel that went uncalled, followed by a legendary brick that didn't even touch the rim and would have tied Game 4 with just under 30 seconds remaining. The Lakers could have easily won any and all of the games in that Western Conference Finals, but instead were swept by the Nuggets to add another chapter in LeBron's book of embarrassing playoff collapses. But less than 2 months away from his 39th birthday, how many more gag jobs does the self-proclaimed GOAT realistically have left? Seems like it will have to be now or never for the King. And speaking of all-time greats, with an underwhelming ring count getting set to age out, 35-year-old Kevin Durant finds himself with yet another super team, as if running with Russ Westbrook and Jim Harden to start his career, then heading to Golden State to steal 2 cheap rings wasn't enough. It was on to a failed attempt at a 3rd super team in Brooklyn before slithering his way to Phoenix to pair with young ascending superstar Devin Booker. And ultimately, the Suns were in a 2-2 series in the 2023 playoffs with the Denver Nuggets before losing Game 5 and 6 to be eliminated by the eventual NBA champs. That, of course, was before the blockbuster deal this summer, which brought 30-year-old Bradley Beal to town to pair with the tandem of Durant and Booker in what promises to be one of the most dynamic scoring backcourts in NBA history. But will they have enough depth and defense to navigate this field? Well, KD's legacy needs it, even if he doesn't think so.
I'm Kevin Durant. You know who I am.
Despite residing in an era stuffed with mentally weak alleged all-time greats that super teams stack their way to multiple stolen rings, Durant is the only one whose legacy seems to take a hit because of it. Durant desperately needs to show he can win something, anything, without a 73-win regular season team behind him, and the time has to be now. But a team with seemingly nothing but time on its hands is the Boston Celtics, the technical odds-on favorite heading in to the start of the 2023-2024 season. A team that has seemed to have the best roster for years and yet is still extremely young at all the key positions, with Jason Tatum, who is coming off of a first-team All-NBA selection and entering just his aged 25 season, while Jaylen Brown, fresh off of his own All-NBA second-team selection, will turn just 27 this year. The Celtics did say farewell this offseason to the heart and soul of their team, Marcus Smart, but they bring in Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis to fill the void. And they also retain the rights to criminally unaccomplished 35-year-old loser head coach Joe Mazzulla, who has just about the most underwhelming resume of any NBA head coach ever, with stops at Glenville State, the Maine Red Claws, and Fairmont State. He also masqueraded himself in front of the media in one pontificating, cringeworthy post-game press conference after the last season.
No. We had the right mindset heading into the game. We played harder than they did, and we were prepared, and we did a great job.
On the way to shitting in his pants in the Eastern Conference Finals.
I got poopy.
Going down 0-3 to the overwhelming underdog 8 seed Miami Heat, only to win 3 straight before an all-time collapse in Game 7. At home, getting blown out by 21 points as a 7.5-point favorite against the 8 seed. It is still mind-boggling just what kind of blackmail material Mazzulla has on President of Basketball Operations Brad Stevens that allowed him to hold on to his job following that debacle. But chances are high no amount of leverage over Stevens will save Mazzulla's job from another collapse this season. And speaking of that 8 seed, it's kind of like everyone has just forgotten about the Miami Heat as title contenders, despite the fact they were in the NBA Finals last year. And that's probably because they have absolutely no chance whatsoever. The Heat shot their shot for Damian Lillard this offseason, but struck out, leaving Jimmy Bucket still in his feelings when Media Day came around recently.
I've been one with my emotions, so this is what you get.
And yikes, one of the very few alpha mindset caliber players remaining amid this era of softness is doing whatever the hell this is. Yeah, that has second round exit written all over it in South Beach this year. And of course, the team the Heat lost out to in the Dame Lillard sweepstakes this summer, the Milwaukee Bucks. A team who entered the NBA playoffs as the #1 seed a year ago, but lost in the first round amid a pretty serious back injury causing Giannis Antetokounmpo to miss nearly 3 full games in that series. The series was also highlighted with some very questionable decisions by head coach Mike Budenholzer, who will no longer be head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks as a result of said questionable decisions. Giannis is still young as he sets his sights on just his 29th birthday in December, and the list of his accomplishments is already long and distinguished.
Well, the list is long but distinguished.
Yo, so's my Johnson.
As he has 2 league MVPs, a finals MVP, and a defensive player of the year already under his belt. But if Antetokounmpo wants to start climbing the list of all-time legends of this era and others, to start making the case for him to be a legitimate top 10 all-time historical player, he really does have to start stacking some rings and start doing it right now. And this year will be by far his best look yet, with 7-time NBA All-Star Damian Lillard joining the fold. By far, without close comparison, the best running mate Antetokounmpo has ever had. Lillard, though, is no spring chicken himself, as he sets to enter his aged 33 season. The Bucks, meanwhile, figured to be on an NBA Finals collision course with the defending NBA champion Denver Nuggets, fresh off of their title led by a historic playoff performance by Nikola Jokic, averaging damn near a 30-point triple-double for the entire postseason. There is practically no conversation for who the best player on the face of planet Earth is right now that doesn't begin and end with Giannis and Jokic in some order. The question is, what is that order? Who is the best? That is the title squarely up for grabs between these two players this year. Jokic, like Giannis, turns just 29 this season and also has 2 league MVPs and a finals MVP in his trophy case. These two aren't just competing for the mantle of best player right now. They are the gatekeepers to each other's individual advancement into those upper echelon type of historical discussions. It feels as if this battle has been brewing for years and is set to crescendo perfectly this June in an NBA Finals arena near you. But every journey begins with a single step, and that step, after a frenetic offseason, is finally upon us.